was given this title, AI and Automation for Cat Monitoring, because at the time when the conference was announced, that's where we were at. We were just being really gentle about how we were advertising what we were trying to do as a monitoring tool. But I can now tell you that what we're trying to do is catch cats. And we're developing a smart cat for cats, smart trap for cats. I'm working with Melissa Thomas, also from Murdoch University, Dave Algar from Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions, and Helen Blackie and Kenji Eri, who are from Critter Solutions in New Zealand. And we came together as a team of people who are everywhere from high-tech to ecology. And what we're trying to do is see whether we can come up with a solution. My acknowledgement of country goes this. On the left is what we have, this amazing biodiversity in this country. On the right is the contents of a single feral cat stomach. And this is what's happened in the last 200 years. I acknowledge the custodianship that has brought this amazing biodiversity to this point, and I hope that what we can do is come together and get a better future and get something which enables us to protect that biodiversity. These are knobtail geckos. I beat you, sorry. 46. One stomach. Okay. Cat control. What we need is a pair of glasses. We need a range of cat control tools to deal with different personalities, as John's just indicated. We also need lethal and non-lethal tools. And what we can do is develop smart technology that can trap cats in a live way, but it can also develop lethal methods. And we need to keep in mind that humane element. And we need humane tools that don't rely on 1080 toxicants. We have heard about the pushback against toxicants. We can't always use 1080, particularly around buffer zones, around pastoral, or even agricultural landscapes or urban areas. And what we need is a range of tools which enable us to work across all of those places. So what we've done is we've come up with a wish list, and our smart traps, we want to have onboard automatic species identification, which is fast enough to trap a cat. It's fast enough to ID it and then trap it. So this is the Edge AI that John was talking about. So it processes on the camera and identifies what it's seeing. We want our traps to be programmed so that we can release the animal, particularly if you're working in really poor access environments, and a lot of us work in very remote areas, and if you can't get to a live trap in time, you need to be able to release that animal. Self-resetting, again, particularly for remote areas, can communicate, and the tools that we've been using have got onboard comms, and they can dial home and you can see what it's seeing as long as you've got Wi-Fi or cell phone coverage. We'll get to satellite soon. But most importantly, are affordable. And what we're aiming for are things that can be deployed at scale. We don't just need one trap in one location. We recognise that we're trying to get multiple tools out there. So New Zealand has, I guess, gone ahead of us in many regards. They have a range of commercially available traps. If you go to New Zealand, everybody's got a trap in their backyard, and they're all catching mammals because nobody likes any mammals there. And they're cheap. They're really cheap. The two on the right are possum traps. These are lethal possum traps. And the possums which were taken over to New Zealand were from Tasmania, where they are big, and they are the same kind of body mass as we're talking about for cats. And so their mechanisms for trapping are suitable for cats. But they are non-discriminant. These two traps that you see will kill anything, if it's native or not. And what we need to do is therefore make these smart. And what we're doing is bringing in the smart technology. And the Critter Solutions, a team in New Zealand, have had Predator-Free 2050 funding, and they have got rat, stoat and possum traps, which they have got through their AWOC Class A kill rates, so they've got approval to go ahead and deploy in field trials. And that's really exciting. What we're hoping to do is translate these to cats, and that's what we're doing here in WA. And we've got 3 steps, and I'll take you through a little bit of the data we've got around these 3 steps. First of all, be able to identify a cat, differentiate it from Australian non-targets, because remember, they don't have any mammals they don't like there, and then attractive edible lure, which is going to keep the cat in position for long enough to be able to get it. So these are our prototype cameras. The images on the top left, we started out with a very upright prototype, and we've twisted it around so we get a more front-on image of the cat. You'll see the little arrows, that's where the camera sits. So the camera is sitting in the roof of this device. On the bottom, you'll see a cat licking from a little plate, and you'll see on the right-hand side that plate, that's the lure plate. So there's a lure which dispenses onto that plate, and the cat just licks off it. When it breaks the beams between those two black panels, which I've marked with stars, that's when it triggers the camera to take an image. And then we get images such as this. So the one on the left-hand side that was taken from my iPhone of the same cat that the other 3 photos are of. We've tried a white light and we've tried 2 different wavelengths of infrared. And we're trialing the different infrared because that enables us to work in daylight when there's a lot more heat and thermal signature around, as well as at night. And what I thought, this is fine. We've got millions of photos of camera-trapped images of cats and mammals that we like. We should be able to use those, but no, of course, we need to have the same angle as the camera will be working from. So we've been putting lots of cats through our cameras. And one thing which is quite exciting to me is the fact that the images that you get from the top of the head are like fingerprints, and you can ID them the same way that John was talking about using the marks on the cats. And even black cats have some stripes, and it looks like we might be able to get some distinctive patterns even out of black cats, which is good. Next thing is we need to differentiate from non-target species. So these cameras have been deployed at Barnamia and Dryandra. So if you do go on Thursday to the Barnamia tour, you'll be able to see those cameras because they're sitting out there. And they're collecting images. We've got a couple of booties lining up to get their photo taken. And on the left, we've got an image of a woylie. And what we're doing is we're collecting images which will then train that AI program to be able to distinguish what it's looking at. And the third thing is we need an attractive edible lure. So we've used lots of lures, lots of novel objects which instill curiosity, so they can be visual objects. People also use olfactory lures, such as which indicate the presence of other cats, which might entice them to come and find out what that social cue is. What we're trialling is some long-life edible lures, and these in theory, should provide positive reinforcement. You could then deploy a whole series of lures across the landscape, which get cats exposed to those lures, and then, in theory, they should be able to, you'd increase your hit rate when you do put your traps out. So what we've been trialling is a conservation lure, which is called Excellent. These are pen trials, results for 30 cats. On the x-axis, we've got individual cats, and the y-axis is the number of photos per day. And you'll see that it's all over the place. The first batch of cats seemed to be a lot more curious and a lot more interactive with our lures. And then the last batch of cats, we had much less interaction. And some cats, we get no photos at all, and some we get a lot of photos. The graph on the top shows you the trap rate, the camera image number, per cat, and you'll see that some of the cats we had the cameras in with, we got heaps of images even within a few days. That's the, I wonder if this will work. Nope. The big peak on the left-hand side of the scatter graph, whereas you'll see on the the x-axis, which is the number of days in with the cameras, we had some cats where we had cameras in with them for 80 days, and we still were getting very few images. So this goes to that idea that cats are very individual, and we've got a lot of personality differences which are going to influence how they interact with all of our tools. So we've also gone then to field trials. We've done 2 field trials to date. The first one was in Walyunga, which is close to Perth, and we used the Conservation Excellent lure, which was put through these easy lure dispensers, so they can set the rate at which it's dispensed and the amount. And we had pairs of camera traps which were facing towards the lure or away, and we set these out for 50 days. And we had only a single lure dispenser that actually accumulated lure. The rest of them were absolutely polished clean, which could have been exciting, except that we had lots of non-targets loving our lures. We had whole arrays, parties of crows coming in, ravens coming in. The graph shows you for cameras where we found ravens, the numbers that came to the lured cameras, the black bars, and the white bars are the paired cameras, the unlured cameras. We also have had a plague of house mice in 2022, and we had heaps of house mice coming in and taking the lure off our lure plates. And again, the red bars show you the lured, and the white bars show you the unlured paired cameras. So our second field trial, we decided we were going to get away from these pesky house mice. So we went a long way away to the southern rangelands, and I will say that we only came back and brought our cameras in last Wednesday, and I've been madly trying to go through images before this presentation. The images on the right-hand side, these were from a single camera, and I think there's also a couple of kittens that were seen there. I think we've probably got 10 individuals on one camera over 2 months, so there's a lot of cats out there. We left our cameras out just because of logistical problems getting out over Christmas. They were out for 5 months, so I've got lots of photos to go through. And I should also, this is a good reminder, I should also remember to say that we've also got some GPS-tracked cats on the same 2 field sites, and we're hoping that we can combine their tracking data with our camera data. So where we're at, we're trying to develop a smart camera that discriminates between cats and Australian native species, which would enable us then to make some of those possum traps or cage traps smart and selective for cats. So we've got heaps of cat images. Please don't offer cat images, thank you. We've got some images of non-targets and we're still collecting, but if this is going to be a tool that could be used across other states, we do recognise that we need to be able to include in the training exposure to other species across the country. So that's where we're at. So the green things are things you can help with, please. Next we'll do some additional data training to change our New Zealand algorithm to something which is more acceptable for an Australian fauna. And then we'll go to field testing the smart cameras to check that they are getting the right targets. As I said, the New Zealand crew are already doing their field trials with the possum traps, and I've looked at their prototypes. They're pretty big and clunky, but they've already got designs for some very svelte-looking traps which will come to commercialisation, they're hoping by 2024 or 2025, early 25. What we're hoping is we can actually deploy some kind of prototype traps to see whether we can do the same for cats. And I'll leave you with one of the videos of a cat interacting. This is one of the younger ones, which is covered in mouse smell, so it's pretty exciting for the cat. Thank you.